Good day, everyone. We are the Group 2 and we are tasked to report about setting up the level in surveying. But before we proceed to the further discussions on how really to set up the level, we must first define leveling and what are its importance in surveying and in constructing and in engineering. So what is leveling? Leveling is the measurement of geodetic height using an optical leveling instrument and a level staff or rod having a numbered scale. Common leveling instruments include the spirit level, the dumpy level, the digital level, and the laser level. The process of directly or indirectly measuring vertical distances to determine the elevation of points or their differences in elevation. Leveling operations are undertaken to provide necessary data for engineering design and construction and the production of topographic maps. These data or results from leveling operation can determine the suitability of a site for development. It can also help engineers design buildings, roads, canals, and other vertical and horizontal structures and lay them out to be the best conform to the configuration of the ground. One of the important factors in getting or acquiring accurate results in leveling is its place or its position. So, here are the following remarks or tips or what we should do in setting up the level. So first, the leveling instrument may be set up at any suitable or designed location as long as the ground is solid. Solid ground should be selected when setting up the instrument. Muddy and wet areas should be avoided as these are unstable to stand on and may cause serious errors in leveling work. Second, care should be exercised in screwing level. If it is loosely fitted, the instruments will wobble and be unstable. Or if the screws are too tight, it would be difficult to unscrew the instrument after using and may cause some damage. Third, when setting up the instrument, the tripod legs should be far apart enough for a rigid setup, and they should be pushed firmly into the ground to make it stable. The instrument man should see to it that the telescope is at convenient height for sighting, and he must be able to stand comfortable between the tripod legs. The last remark is when setting up the instrument on hillsides or a long slope, one of its legs should extend uphill and two downhill. So the next lesson is two types of leveling instrument. The first one is the instrument with 4 leveling screws. This leveling instrument is the most conventional levels. The screws are used to center the bubble in a level tube which is attached to the telescope of the instrument. The second is the instrument with 3 leveling screws. Newer models often have only 3 leveling screws to center the bubble of either a level tube or a circular bullseye level.
Now we are moving forward to lesson 14.3, holding the leveling rod. So the leveling rod is held on a point by a rodman when a site is to be taken on it. To obtain the correct distance from the line to the point on which the rod is placed, it is extremely important that the rod be held plumb when the reading is made. The accuracy of a leveling operation is significantly improved if the rod is always held correctly, and it also increases the speed with which the work may be performed. In holding the leveling rod, the rodman either stands beside the rod or behind it. Just like what is seen in the picture, the rodman is standing behind the rod. He should face the instrument and see to it that the rod is nearly at right angles to the line of sight. The rod should be lightly supported between the fingers of both hands and is allowed to balance on its own weight. The fingers must not cover the face of the rod. The rodman should see to it that the graduations are always clearly visible and not obstructed. Now, lesson 14.4, taking a rod reading. So once the instrument is set up and leveled, the following steps are performed in taking a rod reading. The first step is to position the rod. In positioning the rod, the leveling rod should be held by the rodman on a designated point whose elevation is to be determined. He should stand beside or behind the rod, face it toward the instrument man, and hold it as nearly plumb as possible. Since direction and signals emanate from the instrument man, the rodman should always focus his attention on him. The next step is to focus on the rod. The instrument man should aim and focus the telescope on the rod at the same time, seeing to it that the bubble continues to remain in the center of the level vial. He should make use of the vertical hair to check if the rod is held plumb. The third step is to read the rod. If you are using a self-reading rod, the instrument man should directly observe from the telescope and record the indicated reading by the line of sight. Reading will be shown by the apparent position of the horizontal crosshair on the rod. However, when the surveyor is using a target rod, the process of reading will be the same except that the target will be raised or lowered so that the horizontal crosshair bisects it with while the bubbles is in the center of the level vial. The instrument man will direct the setting of the target, but the rod will be read by the rodman. It is important to note that it is extremely needed to check on the centering of the bubble before and after reading are taken on the rod.
Hello everyone, this is determining difference in elevation, sequence of steps in determining difference in elevation. So number 1, we have the instrument should be held up and leveled at a point about halfway between A and B. So pasabot, imong i-level imong instrument from A to B. Part 2, sight on the rod held vertically at point A, then record the reading. So imo siyang i-sight nimo sa A, tapos imong i-record ang reading. And number 3, rotate the telescope carefully about the vertical axis and sight on the rod held vertically at B, then record the reading. So imong ituyok nimo ang telescope, kanang hinay lang nimo pagtuyok, pero pa vertical axis. Then, isight nimo sa B, vertically. Then, ayan nimo i-read dayon. Number 4, we have difference in elevation between points A and B will be determined by noting the difference in their respective rod readings. So, imong i-point ang A ug B, i-compare nimo ang reading sa difference sa A and B. Next, dapat ang lengths of sight. So, we have, it is always best to take sights at moderate lengths and to attain speed and accuracy in leveling work. So, the most suitable suit will depend upon, number 1, we have the required degree of precision. So, kailangan siya og precision. Then, number 2, the surface of a terrain. Dayon, 3 types of instrument use for the distance at which rod remains readable to the instrument man. So, dapat ibasag yun tanan para dili ma-error imong record. Under the ordinary condition, the length of sight should not exceed about 50 meters, where elevation to the nearest 0.01 meters are desired. During summer, refraction is quite large, thus precise result could not be expected when very long sights are taken. So dili pud siya pwede nga nang nasa adlaw kay nay pasabot nga ma-error na ma-precise pod. Extra long sights may be taken where the terrain is fairly level. Only an ordinary degree of accuracy is required, and completion time is of a primary importance. Very short sights are taken when ground surface rises or falls rapidly, such as in mountainous areas.
Waving the rod. By aligning the rod with a vertical crosshair, the instrument man can determine if a rod is held vertical plane passing through the instrument. He cannot, however, tell if the rod is tipped forward or backward in this plane. This can be accomplished by waving the rod. This procedure is used to determine whether the rod is plumb when reading is taken on it. This is accomplished by slowly waving or tilting the top of the rod through an arc, first toward an instrument then away from it. To the instrument man, this will appear as if the crosshair is moving up and down the rod. As the rod is waved, the instrument man takes note of the rod readings, which will alternately increase and decrease. The minimum reading observed will be considered as the correct rod reading as the particular point cited. When the long rod is used, it is always advisable to wave the rod. If the target rod is used, it must be raised or lowered until there is found just one position when the target rises as high as the line of sight while the rod is being waved. Carrying the instrument. In carrying the instrument, it should always be kept in a box when unused. When transporting, it should remain in its carrying case. And also, when transporting to nearby work field, it does not need to be detached from the tripod given that it is securely fastened. It could also be carried on the shoulder in a near vertical position. In a densely forested areas, it should be carried in a manner where it will avoid the trees and underbrush.
Lesson 14.9 Arms and Hand Signals. An arm and hand signal is any gesture or motion that conveys information or gives a command, direction, or warning. The use of signals is essential in surveying since it is usually difficult or impossible at times to communicate verbally in the field due to distance, wind conditions, and surrounding noise. In surveying, no standard set of hand signals has yet been accepted. It is usually left upon the surveyors themselves to devise their own hand signals.
Good morning, everyone. To continue the report of our group, let's move to the set of arm and hand signals suggested for use in leveling work to transmit the following signals. The first one is move right or left. The instrument man uses the signal to direct the rodman to move either to the left or to the right. The desired direction of movement is pointed out by the forefinger. Second, give a sight. The right or left hand is raised up, is held for a moment in a vertical position. With a raised right hand, I direct the rodman to give me a back sight. Third, command is alright. The level man extends both arms horizontally and moves them up or down. When both arms are brought still and horizontal, it is meant to transmit a command to hold steady. Waving both arms transmit the command alright. When both arms are brought still and horizontal means hold steady. Fourth, this is a point. The rod man raises the rod and holds it in a horizontal position over his head. It could also be taken to mean give me a line. Holding the rod overhead means give me a line, or this is the point. Next, move back. The instrument man uses his signal to direct the rod man to move back further. He transmits the command by raising his right hand with the palm facing toward the rod man, then moving it to the horizontal position with his palm face down. 6. Pick up instrument. When a new set of the level is desired, the chief of party signals the instrument man by first extending both arms downward, then raising them up quickly as though an object is being lifted. Next, raise or lower target. The instrument motions to the rod man by either raising his arm above his shoulder to raise the rod or by dropping his arm below his waist to lower the target. When the raised or lowered target approaches the desired setting, the arm is brought back to horizontal position. 8. Come in. The chief of party or the instrument man uses this signal to direct any member of the serving party to come in or assemble. It is executed by moving the arm into a circular motion starting from below the waist to the front of his face. Plumb the rod. The hand is extended vertically above the head and moves slowly in the direction it is desired to plumb the rod. 10. Establish a turning point. To establish a turning point, the arm is swung slowly in a circle above the head. 11. This is a turning point. To identify a turning point, the leveling rod or range pole is raised over the head in a horizontal position. It is then lowered into a vertical position and held on the point. Wave the rod. The instrument man holds his arm above his head and continuously waves it back and forth. Next, face the rod. This is a signal given out by the instrument man to direct the rodman to face the rod towards the line of sight. It is executed by raising both arms above the head and twisting both hands back and forth. Reverse the rod. The command reverse the rod is transmitted to the rodman by extending the arms above the head and slowly rotating both arms in a circular motion towards one side of the body. Next, move forward. From a position where both arms are extended horizontally, the arms are slowly bent on elbows and the hands raised into vertical position. Lastly, use the long rod. To give the signal to use the long rod, the instrument man extends both arms downward, then slowly raises it over his head. So that's all for the hand signals and commands. Thank you for listening.
Next chapter.